Hello, this is Mr. Mulley on his science lesson for evolution and adaptation, and today we're going to talk about who discovered the theory of evolution, and actually how evolution, we're all part of evolution according to this theory, and actually how we are now having humans have affected different changes in species as well, with plants as well as animals. So let's go through what this is. So, evolution. Evolution is the way that something gradually develops and makes changes over time. So it's a long process, and adaptation is the way something changes for the better or to suit something new or different. Okay. So Charles Darwin introduced the theory of evolution, and he was a famous English scientist. Okay, he was famous for a naturalist, so he was studying nature, a biologist, and a geologist. And he discovered that humans and apes shared ancestors, which led to this famous image here. By ancestors, I mean they share a similar species at the beginning. Evolution is something that happens over the space of a long, long time, so we never really notice it happening. But one animal, plant, or person doesn't just change. There are just small changes with each new generation. So evolution happens through inheriting the different genes. And that eventually begins to change the next generation. So the way that Darwin found this out was specifically about different finches living in the different parts of the Galapagos Islands. So here we are. These are all finches, but they're different variations of the finches. But you can notice they all look slightly different. They're different colors, different sized beaks. They're all slightly different. And the reason why is that they would have had all the same ancestors that looked the same, but they would have adapted to the environment, the habitat that they were living in, and that's to be able to survive better in where they were. So this is how it works. The ones with large beaks would reproduce and had offspring. More of these offspring would have inherited large beaks and survived. In other parts of the Galapagos Islands, smaller beaks ensured better survival than larger ones. And that means on that island, the larger beaks would have not survived because that's not a desirable trait to survive in that area, but the smaller beaks would. They would have offspring, so there'd be more smaller beaks. But on the other part, larger beaks is more important. And then each generation is going to be slightly different from the last. But throughout the journey of evolution, different families make their own generational changes, and that can lead species going down different evolutionary paths. So the theory of evolution is that we all started from some sort of fish-like creature that eventually maybe came onto land, and then eventually, due to the different environment, has evolved into we've got amphibians, fish, reptiles, birds, mammals as well. And so that's the theory of evolution, that due to the environment, we changed. Now, we're going to talk about how humans can now affect evolution and how adaptations can result in both advantages and disadvantages. So, adaptation is the result of mutations which occur randomly, and this can result in adaptive traits which allow the species to survive better, but it can do the opposite, so they can lose a function, or it has no effect whatsoever. Now, adaptation by natural selection results in evolution if the following three conditions are met. The mutation causes a variation in existing traits. So that means that the trait is already there, but it causes a small change in it. The trait can be inherited, so be passed from parent to offspring. And then the reason why this trait would survive is that if it gives a greater chance of survival. So, for example, polar bears, they've got white fur, because actually in white fur, they're able then to sneak up on their prey because of the area that they're living in, okay? But not all living things have adapted or evolved to the same extent. So a living fossil is a living species that is highly similar to its ancestors found in fossils. These living things have either had little occurrence of adaptation, or the adaptations that did occur not proved to be an advantage, so they died out. So here's some examples of living fossils already. So some plants have not changed at all because there's been no need for them to change. So human beings are unique among living things in their ability to affect that evolutionary process called natural selection. And this has been done through something called selective breeding. And they believe that evidence has been shown that over from as long ago as 7,000 BC, when farmers were selectively breeding plants and animals, and this happens now, and it's happening right now as we can see. And I'll go through some examples. So this will result in new varieties of plants or breeds of animals. So let's go through some examples. So one example is the selective breeding, which include cows that can produce more milk, sheep with thicker coats of wool, or wheat that produces more grain and different colouring in flowers. So there have been no evolutionary advantage for this living thing because actually it's been done through a selective breeding process. So it's the humans have done it, but this never would have happened on a normal occasion. So the process of selective breeding: decide which characteristic is important, e.g. amount of milk produced. Find someone or the parent who shows this characteristic. From their offspring, choose the ones who share this characteristic and only let them reproduce. And then you continue with that process, which is why we have these cows now that can produce lots of milk. But it can also, selective breeding produces new varieties of an existing species, not new species. So here we go, we've got a wolf, which has now been selectively breeded, and that's why we've got different types of dogs. So then we have crossbreeding, so where two parents from the same species are bred in order to combine a particular characteristic. So we've got a poodle and a Labrador, which makes a Labradoodle that has characteristics from both parents. One strawberries, it's called, I can't pronounce that word, some sort of Latin words, with another flower has created this type of fruit here. Now, selective crossbreeding was limited and was not successful in all cases, and typically the living things would have to be from the same species or at a push the same genus, and that's something that you might need to look up to understand what that word means. However, not all breedings, or some attempts of the breeding did not work, and it does not always produce the right plant, for example. But with our scientific growing, we've been able to use genetics and technology as well to help create different types of foods. And that's my video on. Oh, that's my video on. So that's my video done on evolution, and obviously you can look through it all. Maybe there's some things that you might want to research. So I'm thinking as a type of, you could research. Let's put the different. Oh, let's get that. Different types of crops that have been selectively bred. So we saw the example, the strawberry, between different plants. I would also like to research different species of plants and how they have adapted to their environment as well. This is really key because actually you might learn how why a cactus is able to survive in the desert whilst other plants aren't. So that might be a really good thing to do. But that's my lesson for evolution today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.